Hi, thanks for being here. Let's talk. May is Mental Health Awareness Month in the States and on this channel, which is in Namibia, but as I said, who go check me. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do. We talk a lot about mental health, we talk about personal finances, some life hacks. I'm trying to make the world a better place, okay? So today we're focusing on anxiety. And before we go into that, while we're actually focusing on 2 Bible verses that help me manage anxiety, and I hope that they'll help you manage anxiety as well. But before we go into that, I'm just gonna share a little bit about what anxiety is. And I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but I'm gonna give you a few definitions, and then I will put the link in the description below, and you can take a look. If any of this sounds familiar to you, you can take a look at the site. It also gives you ways on how you can help manage your anxiety, when to get help, and things like that. So a lot of us say, oh, I'm feeling anxious or have anxiety, and it's perfectly normal because it's a feeling. Well, let me go back. It's a feeling of unease and sort of worry, and it can either be severe or it can be mild. So it's either like it's crippling and you can't move and you're physically ill. Yes, it makes you ill, like it makes you, I talk about it in the previous video as well, that like your mental health and your physical health are intertwined, right? So if you haven't seen that video, episode 3 I think of this season, go back and watch that and then come back to this. So you can actually have like, and your stomach is usually the one that screams anxious. So it can either be that, or it can also just be like a little mild nagging feeling in the back of your mind of worry and unease. And so everybody feels that worry, anxiety at some point, and it's absolutely normal. If it's for something, if there is like something that's coming up, for example, maybe a medical test, you've been ill and you're not sure what's going on, and the doctors are like, oh, we need to check for this, and you're like, oh. And or you can maybe have a job interview coming up or an exam coming up. Oh my gosh, I like me around exam time. And so that's absolutely normal. But then, because it's absolutely normal and fine to feel anxious in times like that. But then there are people who find it difficult to control their emotions, just generally. So their feelings of anxiety are like constant, and they get to a point where it affects their daily lives, right? And so that type of anxiety can be a symptom of something else, like post-traumatic stress disorder, or phobias, or a panic disorder, or a social anxiety disorder, which I know, if you're watching this, I know I said I'd come back to that video. I just haven't found someone to sit with me and talk about it yet, because it's not, I really wanted to go in depth with that. So for reference, somebody asked me to do a video on social anxiety, and I'm still just trying to get my thoughts in order, and maybe get someone to sit with me and do that, and talk about that, because I really want to give that the attention that it deserves. And so back to just generalized anxiety. So if some people, as I said, it's you can have anxiety about something that is absolutely normal and fine, and some people are just anxious all the time. So when you're anxious about the medical test, if that comes back fine, it's not even like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's like a second of, oh, okay, I'm fine, and then, oh, but what about XYZ? So it's a constant state of like, when one thing ends, you find something else to be anxious about, and your brain does that. It's not like you're actively looking for it, right? And it's a struggle. It's a very difficult thing. So I'm gonna link, as I said, I'm gonna link this article, but I'm gonna go into, because first of all, I'm heading out, so I need to hurry a little bit. But I wanted to keep this short. I wanted to talk about the 2 Bible verses that really help me on a day-to-day basis, because I do struggle with anxiety a lot. And I wanted to start off by saying that anxiety is either based in the future, so the fear that something's gonna happen, or in the past, so on regret, or I did this in the past, is it gonna come out, or is it gonna affect my future, and things like that, and a lack of self-forgiveness, right? So if it's in the past, I'm just gonna say this: know that God forgives, and He has forgiven. His grace is sufficient, and all you have to do is give it over to Him, right? But you need to forgive yourself. So a lot of the time, you know, if you're a Christian, you're like, oh yes, God has forgiven me. But you yourself are still stuck and still sitting in that, in your mistake. And you allow it to control you. And you're like, I'm going to sit in this mess because I made it. And I don't have the right or whatever to move on and move forward. And what I say to that is, you do have the right. If God can forgive you, who are you? Who are you to not forgive yourself? And I know it's difficult, so I'm going to recommend, I think there are a few Bible, on the Bible app, if you have it. If you don't have it, please download it. There are a lot of the 3, 4, 5 day, 7-day plans, 2-week plans, and a lot of them on self-forgiveness that I've shared with a couple of people before, and I would really recommend them. And a lot of them really sit in that self-forgiveness, give you an opportunity to remove yourself from sitting in that place of self-hate. And yeah, so the second thing is, if it's in the future, you need to let go and let God. One of the things that I've learned recently is to ask myself, what is happening now? I know that people who have panic attacks and anxiety attacks, you're often told to look at what is true, touch something that is real. And we'll go into that as well, but it's very important to focus in the now, what is real right now. So let's get into it. My two favorite verses, Jeremiah 29:11 and Philippians 4:6-9. I love to read both the contemporary English version, because I'm not an English professor, but also I really love the King James version, because sometimes the way that King James version has, it's just the oomph, man. It's just the words, they do the things. So let's start with Jeremiah 29:11. So the CEV version says, I will bless you with a future filled with hope, a future of success and not of suffering. So if your anxiety is based on something that might happen in the future, as I said, you're not in the future, but God is there and he knows the plans he has for you. And he's saying that your future has success, right? It's filled with hope and it's not filled with suffering. And the King James version says, and I think this one is a bit more powerful for me, it says, for I know the plans, I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. For I know the thoughts, and I think some versions say, I know the plans I have for you, or I think about towards you, saith the Lord. Thoughts of peace, not of evil, and to give you an expected end. Right? Philippians 4:6-9 says, the CEV, I'm going to mostly read the CEV version, but there's a particular verse that I want to get into with the King James version. So it says, don't worry about anything, but pray about everything. Again, let go and let God, right? With thankful hearts, offer up your prayers and requests to God. And you know that if you pray and you believe, then you need to let it go. It's gone now. Right? It's in God's hands now. And then, because you belong to Christ Jesus, God will bless you with peace that no one can completely understand. And this peace will control the way you think and feel, because anxiety is the way you think and feel, but God's peace can control that. And I'm going to go into the King James version that says, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. So even if your anxiety is based in something that is very true, the exam is coming, the reality is here, the medical test is coming, the job interview is coming, God's peace surpasses all human understanding. And so let me go back. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Okay, so God's peace. Finally, friends, we're going back to CEV. Finally, friends, keep your minds on whatever is true, whatever is pure, right, holy, friendly, and proper. Don't ever stop thinking about what is truly worthwhile and worthy of praise. You know the teachings I gave you, and you know what you heard me say and saw me do. So follow my example and the and God who gives you peace will be with you, right? Again, finally, my friends, keep your minds on whatever is true. The devil is a liar, yo. Anxiety is a liar. Anxiety is based on convincing yourself, the devil convincing you that what you did in the past, you can't, even though you gave to God, you are not allowed to forgive yourself for. You have to sit in it. You have to sit in it. You can't move on. And that's a lie. Anxiety is also based in the future. Like, it's not true. Most of the times what you're actually anxious about doesn't happen. Or even if it does happen, it's not as bad as you thought it would be, right? So, yeah, I'm going to keep that short. Jeremiah 29:11, Philippians 4:6-9. I will link them below. So please, if you do struggle with anxiety, look for some anxiety Bible plans on the Bible app. I've done so many of them. And they all say, do not worry, give to God, let God, and really like be in the present and know that the devil is a liar and your brain is trying to convince you that things that have not happened are going to happen. And even if they do happen, that they're going to be the end of the world. And guess what? The world hasn't ended yet, and it's not going to end because of you. And most of the time you will see, it also helps to see how many people have overcome certain things that you would think, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of the world. But God has restored their lives and has given them the faith and the strength to carry on in the future. So with that said, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.